From Daymond John calling the scrub daddy a stupid little sponge, to Mark Cuban's $30 million investment offer being rejected, these are 5 businesses that the Sharks wished they'd invested in. Daymond John regrets passing on that stupid little sponge. In 2012, Aaron Krause appeared on Season 4 of Shark Tank, pitching a peculiar-looking sponge. He called his invention the Scrub Daddy and claimed that the smiley face design wasn't a gimmick at all. It served a purpose. It could get through every corner of your utensils and dishes, making sure you never ate with a dirty fork ever again. Daymond called it a live infomercial, and he was right. Aaron exuded confidence during his pitch, showing how his Scrub Daddy was infinitely better than any other sponge on the market. It could adjust its texture based on temperature, scrub away even the toughest of grease stains, and leave your pots and pans without any scratches. In exchange for all that, he was asking for $100,000 in exchange for 10% equity. Years later, on the Drew Barrymore show, Daymond admitted that he regretted not investing in that stupid little sponge. You might be confused here because before ultimately going with Lori, aka the QVC queen herself, Daymond did make an offer. He was willing to go to a 15% equity share if Lori invested with him. However, he admitted that he was still iffy about the whole thing and didn't really have his heart set on the deal even if Lori agreed, which she didn't, by the way. Lori saw enough potential in Aaron and his product to give him exactly what he was asking for. By the way, Scrub Daddy's worth $250 million today. Shark Tank's $1 billion company. It'd be nearly impossible to find a home in 2025 that doesn't have a Ring camera installed at the door. But back in 2013, the idea of having a smart doorbell was something so far-fetched you'd probably think it was a fad. That's what the Sharks thought when Jamie Siminoff entered the tank in 2013, seeking $700,000 in exchange for 10% of his company. Ring. No, it was Doorbot back then. Jamie's pitch was perfect. He had a little bit of everything. A great product, confidence, and jabs at Mr. Wonderful. Everything seemed to be going well for him. But then the Sharks gave their 2 cents, or lack thereof. Lori and Mark were the first ones to bow out, claiming that Doorbot sounded like an expensive alternative to the friendly doorbell and the trusty security cameras. Both separate products, but they worked. Why make the switch to a more expensive version? Meanwhile, Daymond and Robert believed that nothing Jamie owned in patents couldn't be replicated through some loophole or another. They believed that a cheaper alternative was in the making, and they'd rather save their $700,000 for that product. In the end, it was only Mr. Wonderful and his royalties, an offer Jamie had already made clear he wasn't going to take. Jamie eventually returned to Shark Tank in 2018 after selling his company to Amazon in its biggest buyout to date at $1 billion. Speaking of the biggest exit in Shark Tank history, Kevin reminded everyone that he was the only shark who made an offer. He also claimed that while it was a shame they couldn't come to an agreement, Ring just proved what Shark Tank could do for entrepreneurs in one way or another. Mark Cuban's biggest investment Fumble is a flower delivery company, arguably the richest of the sharks. So, we're talking the richest of the richest here. Mark Cuban doesn't have a lot of regrets in his life. He certainly doesn't have a lot of regrets when it comes to investment opportunities on Shark Tank. Where he misses out on one, he makes up for it by investing in something just as lucrative. But would you believe that his biggest regret is not investing in John Tabis's The Bouqs Co.? John entered the tank with an idea for a flower delivery service that he was willing to give up 3% equity stake for $283,000. An odd figure that raised eyebrows. John went on to describe his business model. He claimed that not only was the Bouqs Co.'s attempting to make flower delivery as simple as it could be, but they were also willing to sell you the whole arrangement at a flat fee of $40. The problem, as you can already tell, was the valuation. With a close to $8.6 million valuation, cracks slowly started to appear. Ironically, Mark was the first one to bow out when he learned that John's business had been valued at originally $5.2 million, and he entered the tank with an exaggerated sum. John argued this was what the Bouqs Co. could become, but Mark was already out. Lori believed that John wasn't doing anything extraordinary. Robert didn't understand the business model enough, and Barbara claimed the name was too hard to pronounce. Ultimately, Kevin gave John the cold, hard facts. The only place he'd use the Bouqs Co. to send flowers to would be to the company's grave. None of the sharks ended up investing. Fast forward to today, and the Bouqs Co. is worth $150 million. It's the only investment that Mark admits he foolishly missed out on. The Sharks thought Spikeball was a gimmick. Not every deal made on Shark Tank goes through. In Spikeball's case, the deal they made on the show didn't go through by the time their episode aired. In 2015, Chris Reuter entered the tank offering a 10% equity stake in exchange for $500,000 for Spikeball. The next big sport. Well, it was already a sport. Chris clarified that the sport dated back to the late 1980s, but by the time he regained interest, he found out that all rights to the company had expired. Yes, this was a Shark Tank first. Not only was Chris entering the tank with a genius product, a great pitch, and an opportunity to make millions, but he did all of that by simply buying the rights to a sport many believed had gone obsolete. Mark even commented that the original inventor of Spikeball was probably shaking his head watching Chris on the show. That being said, he didn't invest, neither did any of the other sharks. But Daymond saw potential in the product. He heard Chris talk about tournaments, competitions, and how Spikeball had a genuine fan base, and he wanted in. The only catch was that he wanted more equity. Ultimately, the two agreed on a 20% equity share and called it a day. Well, by the time Spikeball's episode aired, Chris revealed that the deal fell through. Where's Spikeball today? It's worth over $45 million, with more and more Spikeball enthusiasts springing up by the day. The dating app that rejected $30 million Mark Cuban once made a $30 million offer on Shark Tank, and the entrepreneurs said no. Shocking, right? Well, we need a little backstory here. In January 2015, the Kang sisters entered the tank with a revolutionized concept for a dating site. The three sisters had just quit their high-paying jobs to move to San Francisco and dedicate their time wholly to Coffee Meets Bagel. How does it work? Well, instead of aimlessly swiping left and right on people, this dating app showed you your perfect match every day at noon. That match was vetted by mutual friends, and you had 24 hours to either match with them or pass. The Kang sisters argued that this made dating feel a lot more personal than traditional dating sites, and the sharks agreed. But things soon started to crumble. Ironically, Mark was the first one to bow out when the Kang sisters refused to talk about their total number of signed users on the show. Things got even more tense when the sharks learned that the company was losing money. On the $1 million they made to date in sales, they lost another $1 million. Their 5-year plan of making $10 million wasn't as lucrative either. They admitted they'd be able to break even on that figure. Oh, and they were each taking a $100,000 salary each. Robert was out. Lori said sayonara. Kevin said he valued himself more than 5%. In the end, maybe just to appease the Kang sisters, Mark made them an offer. $30 million in exchange for the whole thing. The sisters, claiming that they valued their company way more than what Mark was offering, or teasing at, bowed out of that deal and left the tank without an investment. Today, Coffee Meets Bagel is valued at $150 million with $36 million in sales annually. If there's ever a way to stick it to the sharks, it'd be this. Which one of these Shark Tank investment regrets do you think keeps them up at night? Let us know what you think in the comments. Be sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe for more videos on all things money.